the Centenarian Decathlon is a model that we use to anchor the marginal decade. So again, the marginal decade, last decade of your life. So what we want our patients to be able to do is identify, again, in great specificity, physically what they want to be able to do. And the physical manifestation of your marginal decade, we describe as your Centenarian Decathlon. So you might have lots of goals in that marginal decade. They might, you should hopefully have some cognitive goals. Hopefully you have some emotional goals vis-a-vis relationships. But when it comes to the physical goals, we want you to be very specific, and we start by saying, look, we have a menu of options, and we want you to at least be able to identify 10 that you want to be able to do. And again, these are very, very specific. And I think there are some of these that many people would have on their list, and there are others that are unique to individuals. So there's some that are on my list that most people wouldn't care for.
Like what would you say?
I'm sure most people wouldn't care that, I want to be able to pull a 50-pound bow back. I love archery. So, and currently I draw like a 75-pound bow, but I want to be able to still draw a 50-pound compound bow. I still want to be able to drive a race car to within about 5% of how fast I can drive it today. Paul Newman, up until a few months before his death, was still driving at this, almost at his best times. So, those are some really kind of weird esoteric goals for me. But then I also have much more generic goals that I think make sense. Like I still would want to be able to walk up 5 flights of stairs uninterrupted. I want to be able to walk down 5 flights of stairs. Those require very different types of strength and integrity of the musculature. I want to be able to get up off the floor. I want to be able to sit on the floor for 20 minutes, and I want to be able to get up on my own power. Again, how often do you see somebody in their 80s that can do that? It's very, very unusual. I want to be able to pick a child up out of a crib. I want to be able to pick a child up off the floor. So there are many of these other goals that I have. Now, how does one go about doing that? Well, again, I think if you are listening to this, scratching your head a bit, thinking, those sound really, really easy. How can those be goals? You probably haven't spent enough time around people in their 80s or 90s. Yeah. Those are staggering physical feats. So let's think about what decathletes do. A decathlete is an athlete who performs 10 different activities, and the decathlete is not the best at any one of those activities, right? Like when it comes to the 110-meter hurdles or the 200, meter dash, they're not the fastest, but no one is faster at doing all 10 of the things that they do, which encompass both the track and field events. And they're generally regarded as the best athlete in the Olympics. And they train as a generalist, but with great specificity.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to apply the exact same model to ourselves as we prepare for those events. We have to be great generalists. So we have to have high peak cardiorespiratory fitness, wide aerobic base, high levels of strength, great amount of stability, all of these things. And we also, have to be able to train very specifically to achieve those things. So now let's go back to the question that you asked at the outset. So is playing tennis twice a week and basketball twice a week sufficient to prepare you to be the most robust 85-year-old? And I said, believe it or not, I don't think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because as wonderful as those sports are, they don't cover all the bases that I just described. They're not building a very wide aerobic base, nor are they building a very high cardiorespiratory peak. Those are both very intermittent sports. Start, stop, start, stop. They're interval training, and that's great. Interval training is a very efficient way, if you had no other time, to get bits of both, the aerobic base, the anaerobic peak. But it's no substitute for having a really wide base and a really high peak. Also, they're not doing a lot for your strength directly. They're not doing a lot for your stability. In fact, they're challenging your stability. So if a person says, I love doing those things, I say, great, keep doing them. If a person says, I want to be able to do those things in my 80s, I say, great, I think that's doable. But you will need to train to ensure that you have the strength, stability, and the endurance to do those things well.
Yeah.